I don't think it's necessary to hold on to things, because holding on to things, it just builds that resentment that I was referring to earlier, the animosity. And you need to just talk things out, because if you don't move on from something, you're living in the past. So my fiance, she started a Disney Instagram account about a year ago, and I was essentially her go-to photographer. So pretty much, I'd say 90% of the pictures that you see on her Instagram are from me. Sometimes she'll ask ideas for like content that she can put on her Instagram or whatever the case is, and I'll definitely give her plenty of ideas, and she'll always like respond like, oh my god, like I've never thought of that, like that's a really good idea. So I feel that creativity for me is definitely something easy to come by. Doesn't really matter what the situation is or scenario. For the most part, I can usually think of something pretty quick if it requires that, or if it's something over a lengthy period of time, I can definitely sit down, jot notes, or do research, do whatever is necessary for me to get to that conclusion. So.
Yeah, and I think it's also fascinating that you and your partner can collaborate well together. I say partner, I mean, I know it's your fiance, but I always refer everybody.
Yeah, I prefer partner. So.
Yeah, that you guys can collaborate well together, because I've mentioned this before on another episode, but it's rare to have the people that you love and then work with them, because you can have a good work relationship with someone else and you just keep it as business or whatever, or when you're friends or you're with your partner, you can enjoy each other's company and just have a good time doing whatever it is that you guys do for fun. But to balance both, it can get a little complicated.
I wouldn't say challenges, maybe sometimes different points of views or opinions, but we just talk it out and just kind of try to get each other to see our point of views and explain why we think or feel that way.
Good communication.
Yeah, exactly. Just communicating, because being what's the word that I'm looking for? Just not being open, or just kind of holding things in definitely is not the way to go about things in a relationship. You just build up I don't want to say like grudges, but you just some sort of animosity towards your partner, because you're feeling some type of way, but they don't know you're feeling that type of way.
Right, because they're not mind readers. We're not mind readers.
So that's my biggest thing when it comes to relationships. As pissed off as you are, or as upset as you are, you gotta get those emotions out. You gotta express that, because the more you hold it in, the worse it's gonna be. And
right.
Last thing you want to do is blow up on your partner, when that easily could have been resolved maybe the day before, the week before, however long you've been feeling that way. So.
And well, the crazy thing is it looks different for all of us, right? Because some people need that time to kind of digest what just happened. Like if there's a situation where like, oh man, I'm upset, or I feel offended by this, like instead of reacting immediately, sometimes, like me personally, I have to take a couple steps back, and I'll probably just not talk to them for a little bit, and this applies to friends too. Like I'm just like, you know what, I'm gonna just do me for a few days to let that blow over, and then I can kind of not confront them, but just say, hey, my bad if this happened, I was going through this and I didn't feel okay with what happened here, so I'm just letting you know now. Because I think that in that moment I might react, and I might react in a more irrational way. Not to the point where I'm like yelling at them or going insane, but just like you might say some very passive aggressive things.
Absolutely.
I've recently learned that I can be very passive aggressive. But like now that I can be more aware of that, I'm more careful about it, and I'll, think before I say something, or at least really think, because I always think before I speak, but and so that communication, like you mentioned, is extremely important. How for you personally, what does it look like with that line of like, all right, let's have a conversation about this right now, or I need to process this for a second?
Honestly, I would say it's something that I've been able to improve over the years. I've read a couple books on emotional intelligence as
Yeah.
well, because when I was working at the Swan and Dolphin, they tasked us with reading a book, and one of them was about emotional intelligence, and so I decided to read that, and I honestly learned a lot, not only for my professional relationship with my career, but also my personal relationship with all my peers and my family and everything. And then I decided to read another book from there to like really learn more. So I would say now, after everything that I've learned, I'm able to just kind of dive right into that communication approach versus taking a step back. If it's something that I'm super, super, super heated about, or just like very upset, or it just builds up very quickly, then yes, I would probably take a step back. For the most part, I'm able to just kind of like digest it, take it in, and be like, all right, let's talk this out and be done with it so we can move on. Because that's my big thing. I don't think it's necessary to hold on to things, because holding on to things, it just builds that resentment that I was referring to earlier, that animosity. And you need to just talk things out, because if you don't move on from something, you're living in the past, and we can't live in the past,
Yeah.
where we have to live in the now. We have to take each day by day, and that's what I've really learned over the years. We can't just keep worrying about something that's already happened, and we can't change it.
It's fun for me to reflect on so many things that have happened over the years. And also, like, many people may know this about me, and is my memory is really like solid. Like, I can remember stuff from when I was 10, when I was 8, like 7, 6, like
Damn.
like I'm grateful for it, because there's so many things to like look back on. They're not always great memories, of course,
Yeah.
but like, I love thinking about like, damn, what was I doing in that moment, and like how was I feeling at that time, and like reflecting on those emotions. But it's also, I think because I'm like that, it might be harder to let go of like the bad emotions and like those grudges. And I don't think I hold grudges, but I think it's definitely harder for me to let go of some certain kinds of pain. And I kind of just remove myself from that, and I'll try to keep going. And then if it comes back, like there might be like that triggering effect, and I'm like, oh God, anxiety.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, all right, well, let me not think about that, So like forgiveness, I think, plays a really big role in that too. And it's kind of hard to, where's the line between forgiving someone, but then also like completely forgetting what happened, because you can't really forget.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's been rough. Have you ever had to experience that? I mean, I think we all have.
Yeah, I mean, in regards to forgiving and forgetting, or a situation that's been involved, I honestly, if it's something that like I can forgive someone for, but it's still on my mind, like honestly, that doesn't really seem like you're forgiving that person, because you're still like holding that with you. So I think if there's ever been a situation where I've been so deeply hurt or offended or whatever the case is, and someone has apologized and I've forgiven them for it, but it still resonated with me, I've probably have like moved on from that person or the situation or whatever the case may be. So honestly, I don't really have anything that I can think of where I'm like, oh, you know what, this was a difficult situation for me, because I'm a very easy-going person, and like if you do me wrong, or if you like hurt me or offend me in some type of way, I'm probably gonna address it. And if you keep doing it, then I'm just like, there's no point in continuing this relationship anymore. So I'm very like to the point when it comes to those types of things. Like, either you want to be cool with me or you don't, and if you don't, then I'm not gonna sit here and like pretend like everything's cool and we're friends and whatever. I'm just gonna forget and forgive you.
Right. That's interesting. I think I'm a similar way, but I definitely don't communicate that part. My communication has improved substantially, don't get me wrong, But in certain aspects, I'm kind of just like, I don't even want to bother talking about something like that. And where I place myself is, I will slightly remove myself a little bit. I'll make myself available if you want to need it, but like the access to it might be a little bit harder now because of whatever is going on. Whether I need to remove myself or whether I want to remove myself because of the dynamic and what you're doing that is hurting me or is just not healthy for me.
Yeah.
Like if you're not really adding any kind of value to my life also or the project, like it's cool, like that's fine. Like I'm here if you need something, but like I'm not gonna be like extremely
Readily,
close,
yeah,
Yeah.
accessible.
And so just kind of being fair to yourself and your energy and how much you're giving to people, just constantly reflecting on that, because I feel like you should do that often. Like, who is adding value to my life right now?
Oh, for sure.
Not this person, not this person, not this person. These other three are. So yeah, I'm gonna do more and go out of my way for them because they are really pouring into me, and there's a reciprocating like feeling there. What's going on. So that's always good to like reflect on and ponder about.
Oh, most definitely. I always say, you should give back to someone the same that they, give to you. Like be equal. You don't want to be like going above and beyond for someone who barely does the bare minimum for you. And I'm not saying like be an asshole to everyone, because that's definitely not what I'm saying at all. But have some self-worth and self-value and appreciate yourself to the point where you understand and realize, okay, I've done this, and this person hasn't even thanked me for anything that I've done. Why continue putting in effort towards someone that they don't, and this might come off a little wrong, but they don't necessarily deserve it, because they haven't shown you anything in return. So why, I guess, keep wasting your time with someone that clearly doesn't value what you're willing to give them or offer them.
Like everything about life is balance. A little bit of compromise, you don't want to compromise too much because then you're compromising your own values and stuff, but just solid balance, and something that my therapist actually told me was, when you do things for people, you're an acts of service kind of guy, you're a words of affirmation kind of guy, like that. Those are my like love languages, and quality time. So when you are making yourself available for people, or trying to help them or encourage them, and if they don't say thank you, or if they aren't doing the same for you, first of all, you can't expect them to do the same for you, because expectations are not the wave, but we're human and we're imperfect, so we're gonna have expectations at times. It's really just a reflection of them. Like, you can't take that personally, because it's however they were brought up, whatever experience that they have gone through, and it doesn't necessarily mean like that they're terrible people for it at all. Let me make that clear. It's just like wherever they're at in life right now, like it's a reflection of them. It's not you. Don't expect anything from them, but you can't be upset because someone didn't say thank you. It's kind of just like, well, you know what? I know my self-worth and value, so like I'm going to be more conscious of how I dedicate it and where I'm dedicating it to. But tying back into that a little bit, like, what are your love languages? I'm curious.
Definitely affirmation. Like I really enjoy being told like I'm doing well, and being told that I'm doing a good job. I'm a very touchy person, so like I don't know what that's referred to.
Physical touch.
Physical, yeah. So physical touch.
We think of love languages, and I feel like we immediately think of like our partner, like or someone who we're getting to know, like, oh, so what are your love languages? So I can like kind of cater to, know what to expect and know what you want, and now you know what I want and all that, like when you're getting to know someone or like when you're dating. But like, we should know about what our friends' love languages are, I think, because it's like that's how we're better able to love on our community, our people, our family, our best friends that we've known for so long, because that's how we're going to uplift them and empower them. I can give words of affirmation all I want to people, but if the words of affirmation or another or a gift, that's not gonna really do anything for them. You
Yeah.
know, it just depends, and you really gotta like sit down and like have those conversations to be like, actually, I don't know what your love languages are. Like how can I better show up for you?
Two of my role models are LeBron James and Tom Brady, and the amount of work that they have put in throughout their entire careers, it speaks for itself. Like,
Yeah.
where they're at in their careers, it's solely because of the work that they have put in. And so when I sometimes feel discouraged, or when I'm sometimes like, why is this like so inconvenient? It's like, well, sometimes you got to go over those humps to get there, or just you got to put in the work for it to feel what's the word that I'm looking
Motivated?
for? Not motivated, but like, I guess appreciated, or like you feel good about it afterwards, like
Validated.
It's like when you work out, and then after you work out, you're like, you know what, that felt good. So like same concept, like
Okay.
put it in the work. So then that way, once you've put in the work afterwards, you're like, you know what, that was worth it. Like, I'm glad I did that. So that way, next time when I do feel discouraged, or I'm like, do I really need to do this, or do I really want to do this? Like, yeah, because if you want to get to the next level, you need to make sure to put in the work.
We already know that so much takes work. Like what success looks like, what happiness looks like. All of it consists of putting in work. So sometimes when we get discouraged by the amount of work that it is, it gets exhausting. We get tired, if we don't prioritize correctly. So it's kind of like relearning the same thing that you already know, or just learning something you already know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm constantly thinking about that. I started off as a bellman, like very low level position, and I was able to work my way all the way up to being an assistant director of a department. And it's just because I put in the work. I stayed late when I needed to. I did the additional duties of others when I may have not needed to, but I wanted to, because I wanted to advance and grow and learn as much as I can. That's another thing. Knowledge is power. Like, as much as you can learn, go for it, because the more you know, the more versatile you'll be, and the more you'll be able to jump into certain things. I can easily commend myself for being a quick learner, because I can go into an office for one day and shadow someone, and then the next day I can probably already be doing like what they're doing, or maybe even later that day, depending like what the task is or whatever. So but absolutely, you definitely need to put in the work to be successful, and sometimes it doesn't come by easy, but it is worth it. And something that kind of like ties this in, my like favorite TV show, The Office. There's one scene.
Nice.
Oh yeah, dude, I absolutely love The Office. There's one scene that has really always resonated with me, and it's Jan Levinson. They're having Women's Day at the office, and Pam talks about how she's interested in doing graphic design and art and all of this stuff. And Jan tells Pam, we have a fantastic graphic design program in New York. And then Pam starts naming off like a bunch of excuses. She's like, oh, well, now's not a good time. And it's like, oh, well, I'm always busy on the weekends. And then Jan says, we can always find a million excuses to not make something work. And like I said, that always resonated with me, because that's so true. Mm-hmm. Like, you can sit here and be like, oh, I don't want to go work out because I'm tired, or I don't want to do this show because it wasn't a good week. But you need to look at things from that other point of view and realize, you know what, if I do this, like, there will be a good outcome out of it. So that always resonated with me, because it's true. Like, you can always find an excuse to not do something, but where is that gonna, where will that take you, or where is that gonna leave you?
Got you to have tea.
Talking it out.
Got you to have tea. So I'm about to get everybody to have tea. Like, you don't understand.
Yeah, this tea was pretty good. Usually I refer to tea as flavored hot water. Um, and I just don't think that's really appealing. But this actually was nice. So is it Marilyn that made it?
No,
No,
shout out to Crystal
Crystal. I am
Ramirez.
sorry. I
No, you're good.
apologize, but thank you, Crystal. It was fantastic tea.